Check, check, check. All right, dude. There is no time like the present. The time hath come. I am lucky today to be sitting down with a dear friend, Max. Max, what's your last name? Would you prefer not to say?
I identify in many ways.
Oh, okay. I like that.
Yeah.
We're going to talk with Max today about all sorts of awesome and weird shit. But first, I'd like to start by saying that these episodes this week have been brought to you by D.S.T. Clean Kratom Tea. Dear friends of ours, Dustin and Sabrina, have started this amazing botanical tea company. It is a kratom tea. It's delicious. It's lightly carbonated. It's great for a day at the pool. We do sell it here. There are other locations, a gas station in the area that sell it, but you can follow them, DST on Instagram. I'll put their Instagram in the description, but check them out. You'll see me drinking these throughout all the episodes this week, as well as brought to you by Poseidon Botanicals. These are Delta 8 gummies. I just ate one, and I immediately feel more in tune with my ability to communicate, which is wild. And I'm going to eat another one at some point throughout this podcast. Two of our favorite products that we carry here at Hakuna. And this podcast might also be sponsored by some other substances, i.e. penis envy mushrooms, that we may have been able to come across. But that is neither here nor there. Now that I've done all of my advertising for the week, Max. Welcome, my friend.
Thank you for having me.
Dude, thank you for being here. When I knew that I was putting a podcast together and I started racking my brain of people who I would like to sit down with, you were very quickly at the top of the list.
Thank you.
We've known each other now for a lot longer than several of the people who I've met through Hakuna. You and I know each other from, I think, 2018, where we met at Tanaga Kava through a mutual friend. You then also helped us with our build out at our last business at Palm Beach Row. And I've personally been able to witness you go through a pretty awesome transformation in your kind of perspective on life. So I thought we could maybe share some of that today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Yep.
So let's start by saying who you are and what you like to spend most of your time doing, or what you do.
Well, who I am has many layers. Because when I say I am, right, I am speaking from this ego perspective, right? But the way I understand I am, am in Latin is love. And that's all I am ever seeking. So every time I see am, it is love. And I will expand on that. But I being Roman numeral 1, is one love.
Interesting.
So when I say I am, anything could follow that, and it is the truth, because the truth is one love. The truth is what connects us. You know, we are
I'm gonna need another gummy for this. Okay, so what we're talking about here is the Latin origins of and your interpretation of those origins of language, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So am, Latin meaning love.
Love. Te amo, amore. Yeah.
Amor.
Yep.
Okay, I understand this completely. I is the letter I, which also represents the Roman numeral 1. So turning I am into one love is almost a literal translation of these words.
Yeah. Well, we are living in a world where we are, to this point, we've been in an identity crisis, because we grow up in this world and we have these identities that we create or are shaped for us by the outside world, right? And they're just names. They don't really define who we are. Because who we are isn't just what we see, it is what lives within us that makes us who we are. You know, and my thing is integrating and getting us to the point of that unity, but it starts here. You know, I have a poem I'd like to share
Excellent.
that it I believe represents where I am, and I feel everyone can. It goes, when we are not ourselves, we are bound and tethered, living others' lives, those unsure and weathered. To really live is to try, be us, bettered. We'll stop looking for more when we see ourselves as treasure. See, most don't know this, but what weird literally means is a person's destiny. It's how we see our dreams. So embrace your weird, because however we seem, it's who we're meant to be, and dreams are meant to be seen. So know what you want, come to expect it, focus on the goal, just remain introspective. Focus, think clear, don't let fear interject. We'll notice fear disappear suddenly when we let it. So trust in yourself and go be who we are. What a world it will be when we see we're a star. We deserve to be happy. Don't let unhappiness linger. We want change. We are change. It's at the tips of our fingers.
It's beautiful, man.
Thank you.
That's beautiful.
Thank you. It's I made this commitment to myself. But at that point, I was living like most of us, one-sided, where I had turned from that value within myself.
Hula.
Hula.
Love you, buddy.
I love you too. And when I say I love you, I am saying I am you. You are my equal. You know, I see the world as my lover, right? For like like veracity or veracious, the root ver means truth. And lo, like lo and behold, look, truth, my equal.
Lover.
You know, and that's the point. Life is meant to be loved. And what we give and who we are, the expressions that we embody is love. But it's about seeing the value in us and reestablishing that value, because we have grown in a world where we've placed a price on life when life is priceless. You know, it was said, I am the way, I am the truth, I am life, right? Well, I am the way. Well, one love is our light. It's
One
how
love
we
is
shine.
the way.
You know, like I am the truth, for one love is the truth, right? And I am life, for life is love, right? And we're so, to this point, caught up seeing in the world of what we see, but that world that we see is divided, right? But what connects us is what we don't see. You know, our inner and our outer worlds are more connected than we have been led on to believe. So in essence, it's seeing the value of who we are. You know, we everyone is always, well, what do you do?
Right.
You know, what are you doing? What have we done? You know, but I identify with the word, right? So the word, think of the alphabet, right? Well, A is one. Well, we are one being. A, B. You know, one is two. But it's about what we are seeing. And when we align what we are seeing outside of ourselves with the truth that lives within ourselves, well, we see how amazing this life truly is. And we start to imagine the life that it is capable of being when seeing life from a perspective of like balance and perfection. You know, like this idea of perfect. Well, the way I see perfect, right? Being as we are one, I am one, though I am in two. You know, two eyes, one sees. Two ears, one hears. Two nostrils, one knows. Two hands, one holds. You know, and so it's about creating that union with ourselves, and that's exactly what we are doing. We are just at different points of that.
So,
But
let me.
yeah,
I want to be able to shine a light on your methodology of thinking, and make sure that it's digestible, right? So, I've come to learn that you are very into using our language, looking at our language, and breaking it down into core essences to allow that to shift or shed light on the perspective of what we're talking about. And I am I pursued a rap career for 15 years. Language and words are one of my favorite things. I have a passion for language, and your take on it is really awesome. But what I want to do is backpedal a little bit.
Okay.
And because I spoke of the transformation that I saw you go through, is there a time or a period or a circumstance that you can attribute to this shift that you had from just like everyday rat race, what am I going to do for work today, what am I going to do to eat, to this new perspective of I am love? Do you remember a time or a circumstance that created that shift, and what was kind of the fundamental essence there that grabbed you? Does that question make sense?
Yeah, of course. So I was at a point in my life where I was always giving myself, right? And typically I found that's what makes us happiest, when we can make those around us happy. You know, like we are love and we give love, but we seek to be loved. You know, and so giving myself.
Right up in the mic, buddy. Sorry, dude.
You're okay. You never have to apologize.
I tell you to ignore the mics, and then I'm like, talk right into it.
Yeah.
Giving yourself.
Giving myself that one-sided nature where I wasn't giving onto myself, right? What I was letting in was perspectives that lived outside of myself, right? It didn't reflect my true value. So the word death, the way I see that, right? DE is from or off, right? But we're only ever on, you know. And ath, right? Like athlete is contest, struggle. So we are life and death, for life is in a contest with itself, right? I was giving myself, but when I was down on myself, I was my worst enemy.
Yeah.
You know, I was giving that love, you know, and that's what God does. God gives, right? Like the concept of like the devil is what lives within in wise of we can be our own worst enemy.
Absolutely.
Right? So that it wasn't living, right? That isn't living. Living is loving, you know, being loved. So I made this commitment to myself, and I asked myself, I said, you know, this isn't living, and I just want to live, right? And that awoken something within myself, and in essence, it's like that's what we've been waiting for, right? So at that moment, I made this commitment to myself to embody love, right? At a time when, again, there was distortion in wise of the perspective of love at that time for me. So that led me on a journey of self-exploration where it was, well, you know, who am I? You know, and I realized that commitment to embody love, right? It isn't just to myself, right? Like we all have a soul, right? And that soul, what we don't see, like, is of the same place, right? It is what connects us. You know,
It's all from source.
yeah, the way I see sin, right? Sin is like our soul in that has turned from itself and is caught up in a world where it starts separating itself because it doesn't see itself anymore. You know, and that commitment opened my eyes to see that, like, I am you. You know, like, we are all of the same, right? Though we are different expressions of one, right? We are all, like, within one, right? And there is a way that I have been able to see myself and in turn everyone else by identifying with it and learning to love that. And to me, love is, it's acceptance. It's without judgment and believing in unconditionally, because love is unconditional, you know? And as we show that to ourselves, we are able to, like, that's what we are giving. You know, we get back to, like, the truth that lives within us. It's what we all give, but at some point, you know, we are taught to believe we aren't good enough, you know, or
Well, it seems like it's that way from the beginning, that we're like, you know, if you think about like Disney movies, like it's always like, it seems to be based around like kings and queens and princes and princesses, and this ideology of beauty and power, and the haves and the have-nots, and what we behold as where we want to go is to be a have and not a have-not, and that's taught to us at a very young age, you know. And the message that you seem to be sharing of love and unity is so important in this day and age, especially what's happened over the last couple of years, when in March of 2020, when there were talks of, you know, 15 days to flatten the curve or whatever, the first thing that they said was keep 10 feet, 6 feet away from other people, and don't gather in groups of larger than 8 to 10 people.
Yeah.
And initially, my initial thought was, wow, this is a really powerful tool to separate us. And then they spent the next 2 years after that training us to be afraid of other people.
Yeah.
And that other people can hurt us. And imagine the school-age children who are being sent to school every day with a mask, being told that their friends can get them sick and kill them, and then they can then take that sickness home to their grandparents if they get too close, and could kill them. And I am a huge believer in like the power of the collective consciousness and what we're all thinking about. And if we are all filled with fear and need to be separate from our other humans, that can only lead to a downfall of society and humanity. Like you're saying, we are one, and we need to love and embrace each other, rather than blaming your neighbor for not wearing their mask or not being vaccinated, or like being trained to fear and hate each other, as opposed to being told like we are all literally the same thing. Like a weird analogy is like a fly, like a fly's eyes has all these little dots on it, right? And it's all a slightly different perspective that gives vision to one thing. And that's kind of like what you're saying here, is that we are all like a speck in the fly eye that is just a slightly different perspective on what's happening, but collectively is so important for like the whole picture. You know, is that's a fair analogy, right?
In essence, I mean, that's what. But see, to worry about any of that and to say like, well, you know, they are doing this to us, and like we are doing this to ourselves, and it's all to lead us to the realization that yes, we experience ego from the me perspective, right? But we get ourselves back to alignment when we understand that me is we, just from a different perspective. You know, and like I have this something I wrote to someone, and it essentially, trust in our senses to heal our pretenses. What is heaven sent will make sense of the senseless. Love only makes sense, for that is all that our sense is. So let us master our peace and get out of the trenches. You know, we are so caught up in this world of information, right? But when we start to see the unity, right? To me, that unity is God, right? The oneness. You know, God is one, God is truth. Well, one love, true love. You know, God is the love that is omnipresent, right? And when we start to reconnect ourselves, our inner, with our outer, right? Well, that information starts to become clear when we see that there is only God in formation. You know, the value, I mean, the root val, like valor, is strength or health. Like value. Like this is just who we are, and when we trust in ourselves again, this is just the beginning. Love is the beginning. Love is the end, right? But when you put those two on the spectrum, like that beginning, end, it is only ever like happening now, right? Like I had to get myself to a point where I have nothing to see that I have everything. That's how wholes work. I had to put myself in a place with nowhere to lay my head to see that nowhere is now here. It brings me to the present moment. And there is this word row, right, being that I believe that has been my focus, right, is to row us, right? Row, it means creating what is intended to be an international language, rejecting all existing words and their roots, and basing it off of analysis and classification of ideas.
Say that again.
Row, the word row, R-O, right? It means creating what is intended to be an international language, rejecting all existing words and their roots, and basing it from an analysis and classification of ideas. So,
interesting. So you are you saying that there's a potential concerted effort to change what language means into what it's perceived as opposed to what it's supposed to mean?
Well, I'm saying that, it is said that, in the beginning was the Word is with God, and God is the Word, right? And God being love, right? Well, the Word is meant to connect us, right? And give us understanding. We create with the Word, right? But the words from these ego perspectives, right, we have developed this narrow perspective where we don't think of the perspective that exists elsewhere, and how it connects. So in essence, like, live backwards is evil, love backwards is evil, like, but like in Hebrew and Arabic, the language goes from right to left. There are so many different perspectives from all around the world, but we keep believing that we are right and they are wrong. But when we start to see that it is all perspective, right, and seek that connection, that love in the Word, like, we will always find it, and that will bring us peace. Earth rearranged is heart. The heart is our home. And seeing the value here and seeing that we are in the heart, like, I truly believe this is our love story. And that's the perspective that I am here to give life to and be the life of, because it's the only thing that makes sense.
I love that, man. I love that. I want to touch on something you pointed out to me the other day, with the rearranging of the two variants. Mm-hmm. Will you show that? Will you write that down? Those two variants on the board. Show those, and then show what they rearranged to spell.
I could do that.
Yeah. Cool. So Max brought a whiteboard so that he can visualize, help visualize some of these things that tend to be hidden in the language that's put in front of us. And one he pointed out to me the other day really blew my mind. So it's based from Delta and Omicron, which are the most current variants of the C19 that has been circulating and making a lot of people under the weather. But the name selection in these, so first show those two words real quick. Delta and Omicron. Now, without adding or taking away any letters, you can rearrange those letters into two different words that I think we are all susceptible to and has been going on for quite some time. It says media control. So the words Delta and Omicron rearranged into media control. And for me, that is massively eye-opening, oddly prolific, and I think it just really sheds light on the fact that there are... Oh, and Omicron rearranged also becomes moronic. Shocker on that one.
Well, when we trust our senses to the outside world, right, and that is where we are getting information without bringing it in, right, and discerning the information that we are receiving, like when we see more value or more on, that creates less on. You know, because life is teaching, learning, learning, teaching. You know, and this is to teach us, to get us to return home. You know, put Humpty Dumpty back together again.
Yeah. Well, it's said that the best way to learn something is to teach something. And there's something to be said there about when you are teaching, you are also bringing that information and solidifying it within inside you. Yeah. And that kind of touches on that point as well.
Yeah. It's so again, like I said, the word has provided a clarity, identifying with it as the word and identifying with love, truth, peace, you know, understanding the perspective and perception is you know, our senses are heaven sent. You know, there is a connection with the truth that we are in, right? When I seek myself in the word, I am able to find a way to see that provides clarity, be it in a higher understanding, you know, or just letting me see connection, you know. So that rearranging it to see media control, it isn't about creating a villain, right? I mean, devil, D-E from, villain, you know, it's when we are creating a villain that we see a villain, you know, and it's really about just getting us to see that we are the sensei and the pupils to life. You know, we are with an open mind. We are the ink, the authority. You know, but love is the only thing that sustains. It is the truth. And that is the most beautiful thing there is. And to agree on that love, right, is where we take our biggest leap forward.
It's an interesting thing about love and humanity, and I think you touched on it before, but we all crave love. to be loved, to feel loved, whether it's from family or romantic relationships. There's this one thing that we all yearn for, and it's to love and be loved. And there's something interesting there of why we have such a draw towards that, especially when you think about like behaviors and that really came from the evolutionary process of survival. I don't know, like, love would make you vulnerable, right? And it could be counter productive for the evolution to procreate. Obviously, when you fall in love, you make babies and whatnot, but there's also so many stories of love then being betrayal or love starting wars, right? There's this reason we're drawn to it, and I think it's a really interesting thing to think about of what is this love, this feeling of being loved that we so crave, and why is it a bottomless pit for some people that can never feel loved? How much of that is ego? And
well, that is our truth. The thing is, when we don't identify with love, or when we separate it from ourselves, we become something unlike ourselves, right? And like, hurt people. That pain we project into the world, and we lose sight of who we are. But evolution backwards, again, to me, there is only love, right? And be it through religion or science, like the word again has provided a clarity to that, so like evolution, right? Well, religion kind of, I don't like generalizing it all, but it's they have typically been against each other.
Yep, absolutely.
Religion and science, but evolution backwards, phonetically spelt different, but it's know I to love, or know it you love. Because see, like, we are the one, me, that ego perspective, right? Ego, first, it has taken all of time to get us to this moment.
Yes.
Right? It has taken all of time for Geo to create ego. And when the ego starts to re-see its value and reconnect with Geo, like this delusion of like imbalance and lack and pain, like we start to see that like it isn't real. We are real in the real. But it's seeing that we are real, right? And seeing that we are that love, expressions of it. Identifying with that, it will bring us back into alignment with the love that we are in.
So speaking of ego, isn't it interesting with, some people say that when they take psychedelics, specifically like psilocybin, right, the mushroom, there's a lot of speculation on how mushrooms came to this earth. Some people think mushrooms were initially extraterrestrial, that came on possibly like a meteor or whatever. But when you take these psychedelics, what can often happen is ego death. Yeah. You have this opportunity to, some people say, see source and whatnot, and then you have this death of the ego. I think it's wild that this mushroom, and some people also think that early in evolution, lower hominids got a hold of psychedelic mushrooms, and that's what like springboarded this growth. And I think it's wild that a lot of that seems to be interconnected with psychedelics, the death of the ego, growth as humans, but why do we have this ego? Because some people don't have it as much, other people have massive amounts of it. It's definitely got to be a evolutionary tool to progress the tribe, maybe for a woman, when she sees somebody who is confident and very steadfast in their beliefs in themselves, they'll be a better person to procreate with. But then also ego would have an opportunity to get you killed. And so I always like to think back to, like, what is the evolutionary purpose of these behaviors that sometimes seem to be honestly detrimental? Like, what is it there for? Why do we have this ego? And why, when we don't have it, are we more open?
Well, first, again, what is ego, right? Well, like, ego is being experienced as human being, right? Well, Homo sapien means wise man, right? Wisdom is to know self, right? We are that one experiencing itself in ego to know self, right? It is love in a realm of wisdom, right? But that wisdom can become distorted if it isn't tied to love. But identifying that ego with love, right, we become the wisdom of love, right? And when we start to tie ourselves back to that, we start to see that this is our story. All of it, right, is our story. Relationship, lation, it's like the movement of a celestial body, right? This is our relationship, and like, this truly is our love story. For that one is able to experience itself in ego, it's just about, love isn't about just filling holes, it is about making whole. And I mean, we are born in a world where we identify gender, right? Well, gen is birth or born, right? The root der means split. So right away, how we identify ourselves, we are identifying as one born split. So that duality that we experience ourselves in creates a dual. But we're only like at war with ourselves. It's creating that union is what we are here for. Like, it is inevitable. What has been, like, is just that. Everything has happened to this point. But it has led us here. So as we start to put ourselves back together and, we start to create, perceive, and shape the world from a perspective that isn't repeating the past or in fear of the future. It is just one that, like, is in truth.
Do you think
it is for us?
Do you think that this recent recognition or push towards this non-gender, non-binary approach is a bit of an awakening, because it's said that before the fall of great empires that gender lines start to get very blurred. So it happened to the Greeks, the Romans. There's like hermaphrodites, and it's weird that it's tied with the fall of great empires. But maybe there's something to that when the people awaken, they realize that the imperial or control is not what we need. What we need is a unity amongst the people. And you think that's maybe what's happening right now, is this awakening to realize that it's, rather than being split at birth, that we are all actually one with male and male and female, masculine and feminine tendencies, and it's more of a spectrum than a left and a right, and that is coming with an awakening.
I mean, yeah, like it again, this is all happening for us, right? That identity crisis that I spoke of, we place ourselves in boxes, right? And we label ourselves in a way that separates how we identify ourselves with a term that, or words that we don't identify with as well. So in essence, like, I am both male and female, right? Because it isn't about just what we see. Like female, rearranged, right, is feel am. And am again is love. Always. So I feel love. Male, right?
Rearranged is lame.
Well, is lame. It is also like elam, and lam, like the root chakra, is life. So the energy of life. Or El-Am, like Elohim, love, Male could also be seen as melee. I mean, that's the thing. There are so many perspectives, and they all make sense, but it's only once we bring them together and see that I am that, we start to understand, like, where the division is coming from, and we are so guarded by what we believe we own, we protect that, which we have grown attached to, but there was this saying, and it was the most valuable things in life are defenseless. Right? The moment we start to just like let our guards down and trust in ourself and those around us, like, that is our strength. I mean, the name Erica, right, means eternal ruler. Well, am Erica. Love is the eternal ruler. We already won this. You know what I mean? This game that everyone makes this out to be. Well, the way I see that game, the root game, is marriage. We're meant to, like, marry the energy that we are. Right? This is a game of chest. We see this is our treasure chest. Both the free queen see and the inn king. And like, even your name, right? Blake means black and white. Like the pupil. It is both dark in the center, surrounded by hue, and then white, clear light. That's where we are. This life here, being in the realm of wisdom, it expresses itself in duality. And that is so beautiful, right? The marriage of that duality.
So for those of you who are just listening, Max is writing on the whiteboard here.
When two become one, right?
He has the word Zion here, Z-I-O-N.
In essence, Z, right? Z is S, is N. Right? Just different perspectives. Just as like W is E, is M, is 3. Right? It's all just different.
Show that to the camera. So it's written here, Z equals S equals N, and then we equals E equals M equals 3. Explain this to me.
So, like, it is our perspective that is creating the division, right? And when we start to see the connection that is there for us to see, it allows for that union to start to take place, right? So I bring this up because think of where we are, right? Well, where we are in time, right? And space, the where and the when.
Yep.
Right? So think of a compass. I call it my compassion, you know, like compassion, right? So N, north, S, south, right? Well, we are in the middle.
This is a compass here with north, south, west, east. And from west to east, it says the word we with a line in between. So we are in the middle.
Well, we are in the middle. And when we are caught up in the difference of perspective, separating it,
the north
that
and the south.
we becomes divided.
And now there's a division symbol.
Right? But the truth is, that is true, right? Flipping that on its head.
So now he's writing the compass upside down. South on the top, north on the bottom, east on the left, or M on the left.
You could see sin me. Right?
When everything's
like,
upside down, it's sin.
Well, that sin is the soul in that has attached itself to ego, but it is separating itself from the truth, the we perspective. Right? So, like when I hear sun, right? Well, sun could also be seen as being as S is N is Z. Well, sun could also be seen as SOS, right? Save our ship. You know, and we are the ones that save our ship, right? By reconnecting with ourself to reconnect with those around us. You know, this idea of like the like true and false, right? Well, false rearranged as a self or oneself. For that self believes itself to be wrong when it separates itself from itself, it loses sight of who it is. So it's caught up in the distortion. You know, tying the compass with time.
I am very high right now from the edibles, extremely high. And this
wonderful.
makes me feel even more high. You have a way
I'm
of
so happy.
finding depth in language that sometimes twists my brain all up, and I have no fucking idea what you're talking about. But other times, and it's not because you're not, it's because I'm having trouble seeing your perspective.
Yeah.
But other times I see what you're saying, and it really just blows my mind, because there's so many layers to this, like existence soup that we live in.
Our love story is a beautiful one.
Yeah, and slightly
Truly.
confusing.
Well, it's a growing process.
Yeah.
You know, well, I will say the tying this, right, the compass with the when we are, right, time, tie me, you know, tie the ego perspective to time, for we are creating it, you know, watch this, you know, showtime, clockwise, you know, so 12, right? And then 3, 6, 9. Right? I'm sure
Yep,
you've heard
okay.
of the 3, 6, 9 before.
Yeah, okay, so he has written on here, why don't you erase the other ones real
Yep.
quick? Or do they all tie together?
In a way, yeah.
Okay, no, leave them then. Okay, so he has on there here basically a depiction of a clock with 12 at the top, 3 at the right, 6 at the bottom, 9 at the left with a cross in the middle. Okay, now go ahead and show it and continue.
So, in essence, we start to see that time, right? Well, 12, the 12th letter in the Latin alphabet, is L. 9, the 9th letter in the Latin alphabet, right, is I. 6, the 6th letter in the Latin alphabet, is F. And then 3 is just E backwards. Time is life. Right? Like, that is who we are and where we are. And it's seeing the value in who we are and where we are by as we come to understand who we are. Right? We are in a world where, in a way, we're unaware of the beauty of what we speak. You know, to me, being that, you know, God is life, well, like, who are we hating? And God is the Word, meaning God is every letter, and every letter is sacred. You know, that compass, like the good news, right? This world has been sown, right? Fate derives from a word fari, which means to speak. It, like, we reap what we sow to this point. You know, but, like, I'm here to, like, free willy. Free will. You know, like, because, like, when we understand that what we speak, what we think, what we see, it is all divine, right? We start to see the value in it, and, you know, instead of caught up in the division, we're instead, like, giving glory, and, like, what we're speaking we want to hear. You know, So
Max is erasing his board right now and making space for another depiction of how symbolism and language in our world can be interpreted.
yeah. So first I would say, like, being the universal university, right? Well, universe, the way I see that, well, una is one, right? Ver, the root ver is truth. And SE actually means apart, right? So the universe is one truth apart. And that truth is average. For A is one, ver is truth, and age. It is one truth, age. You know? And when we start to connect and identify ourselves with that truth, we start to see the truth around us, right? And the most valuable thing that life teaches us is first overcoming that fear that isn't real, you know, or it's real from a perspective, you know, but
They say that fear is fake, F-E-A-R, fake something appearing real. Ellie, do you know what that phrase, fear, fake something appearing real? Have you ever heard that? I'm going to look it up really quickly. This is one of the ones that I know.
Okay. Yeah, I love it. Listen, this is a teamwork makes the dream work, you know? You are my equal.
Fear, fake appearing real. I'm using DuckDuckGo to look up this. Oh, false evidence appearing real. That's it. Yeah, or false emotions appearing real. Which is interesting along with what you're saying is that if, like, fear is not real.
Yeah, well, fear, being that it is F-E-A-R put together, it is truth. It is just our perspective of it.
Interesting.
You know, like we see, you know, or we think of like love and fear, two polar opposites, right? But like, one is the truth. Fear is just love from a different perspective, right? So like, fear, or like the root AR means like fit together. So fear could be seen as like fee, fit together, right? Well, at the center of this earth, right, the core is iron. Iron on the periodic table is Phi. Right? It is really just us fit together, that one being experiencing itself in wisdom, you know, face our fear. You know, I mean, imagine one becoming two. Just from the beginning. Well, I am you, but I don't control you. So what, am I losing control of myself? You know, like, you don't always hear me correctly. You know, or we just see things differently. So like, it's just been a process to like understand the unity of where we are and how we experience, how that one is experiencing itself. But that love like is intelligent, right? It isn't just what we see, it is what is unseen. And like we are well connected. So whatever has happened here in what we see, in what we don't see, it is only working with us and for us to get us back into alignment with that truth of the whole the wholeness of who we are,
Yeah, it's
of where we
beautifully
are.
said, man. Well, speaking of love, I know from the bottom of my heart that I love you, man, and I am
I love you
really
too.
glad that we have gotten an opportunity to know each other
Yeah.
and be in each other's lives. And this has been an enlightening and slightly confusing conversation that I am eternally grateful for you sharing your perspective with us and the way that you can look at language and find a deeper meaning to us.
Yeah.
I hope that we can continue this conversation. I'm sure we'll have many, many more conversations.
Yeah.
But before we wrap up for the day, is there anything that you'd like to leave the people who have joined us today with? Because I know you have an underlying message in what you're speaking, and I don't know if you can put that in a few words to share with everybody.
Well, I have this poem. It's very simple, but
Right up in the mic,
but it goes, I am love, you are too. God's within, where love is true. Love within, to love anew. Know that God is the love in you. See, death is fear. Fear isn't real. Life is here. In love we heal. Be crystal clear. Change your deal. Live, hear, see, feel. The message here, love is real. Love sign, you seal.
Beautifully said, Max. Thank you
You.
so much, buddy. If people are interested in kind of learning more about your methodology, I know they can see your methodology of life and way of thinking. I know they can run into you here at Hakuna. You'll see Max with his notebook, constantly working on this. Is there a way they can find you online? Are you active on social media?
I wouldn't say that I am. I mean, I just.
You'll see you when you see you.
Yeah, I am always with you.
Yeah. He's always with you. Again, Max, thank you so much. Thank you guys for joining us today. I think there's no better way than finishing this podcast with a world-class Max hug. So let me get a hug from you, bud.
Okay.
I appreciate you so much.
Yeah, I
dude.
love you. I wouldn't be myself without you.
Well, that's the damn truth. Love you, buddy. Great job. Great job.